Morning, everybody. As we go to the Chitas of today, we're holding on Friday the sixth portion in the book of the Parsha of Atat Tetzaveh. We're holding in the chapter 29 in the book of Shemos, chapter 29, verse 38. Torah continues with the dedication of the temple, which the Kohanim did for 7 days. Moshe Rabbeinu did with his brother and his nephews for the first 7 days of the dedication of the temple. I think the Torah continues about the sacrifices that was brought every single day of those 7 days. So also, not only was the dedication of the temple, the most important vessel in the temple was the what do you call it, the mizbeach, which was the sacrificial offerings, and so that also had to be inaugurated, so to say. This week should put on the altar lambs in the first year, shnayim layom, every day too. This was also done every day of the year. This is a carbon tamid that was brought in the morning and the afternoon. As a the first one lamb you shall bring up offering in the morning. As a the second lamb you shall bring it up in the afternoon. We saw it in Seilas Bulul Bashem, and you have to take 1/10 of flour, thoroughly mixed with a quarter of a hin of crushed or olive oil, and a libation of 1/4 of a hin of wine, to each lamb. Now she says that what is an ephah, 1/10 of an ephah, is the volume of 43 1/5 of an egg. The way they used to do volume in the times of the Torah, times of the Talmud, that's how they did the volume by the egg, by the amount of an egg. That's also in food. The concept of there's an olive, kezayis, or kebeya. So this is when you take, you crack the eggs, and you make the volume of 43 1/5 of an egg. Bashem and Kosis, crushed is not stated as an obligation, obligatory, but simply to make it acceptable. Since it says crushed for the lighting, implying for the use of the lighting, but it's not the use for a meal offering. I would possibly think that the verse means it's qualified for the meal offering. Therefore, the Torah states crushed. Consequently, crushed for the lighting was stated to only exclude the meal offering, that they are not required crushed oil, but even oil ground in a meal is acceptable. As it's taught, there were 3 different levels of crushing of the oil. The first crush was for the menorah. The second and third was for the oil was used for the mincha. So there was different levels of crushing. Reva, he and Shleisha lugin. There was 3 lugin. Nesach and the libation for the basin. We learned in Tractate of Sukkah, 2 silver basins were at the top of the altar, and they had a hole in the 2 fine nostrils. He, the kohen, would pour the wine into this basin, and there was a hole in the center of that basin, and the wine would go into the basin, into the inner side of the mizbeach, and ultimately to the ground, to fall on the floor of the altar, and they would be sent through the holes in the altar to the foundation at the top of the temple, and the copper altar was descending the altar to the ground. Verse 41, the second line we should do in the afternoon. You should do exactly what you did in the morning. And also libations. It should be a beautiful smell, beautiful satisfaction. I mean, Ishal Hashem, it's a fire offering to God. Now she says, this is stated regarding the meal offering. For the meal offering of the libations is entirely burnt. In order for the sacrifices, the first of the limbs, the burnt offering, and afterwards the meal offering, as it says, the burnt offering and the meal offering. Verse 42, Eilas Tamid, that's why I said this was an Eilas Tamid. This was a continual burnt offering for your generations. Pesach Hayom, which is brought to the tent of the meeting. L'fnei Hashem, before God. which I come and arrange meetings to you there, to speak to you there. She says, daily in the morning and daily in the afternoon. When I arrange a time to speak to you, I'll arrange it to come from there, come there. Some of the rabbis derive from here that since the time of the Mishkan was erected, the Holy One, blessed be, spoke to Moshe from above the copper altar, outside altar. Others, however, say they spoke to Moshe from our cover. As it says, I'll speak from the top of the cover. And we'll arrange a meeting for you. Stated here is stated about the altar, but about the tent of meeting mentioned in the verse. So there's an argument exactly. Where was Moshe Rabbeinu at the time when God would call him to the Mishkan to have a conversation? As the verse says, verse 43, when I'll arrange a meeting with the children of Israel, and I'll sanctify it in my glory. Now she says, I'll arrange to speak to you with them, the children of Israel, as a king arranges a place to speak there with his servants. I'll sanctify the tank, the Mishkan. B'chvoidi, that my Shechina would dwell in it. The Agada that says, do not say b'chvoidi, ela b'michvoidi, with my honored ones. Here, the Torah hints, here the Eibishter hinted to Moshe that the deaths of Aaron's sons on the day of the Mishkan will be on the 8th day. So, bim michvaidi, to those that will sanctify, that will honor me. The Eibishter says, I will sanctify the temple by those who show me honor. That means these two sons of Aaron, which will show me honor. And that's why Moshe Rabbeinu says later, Book of Vayikra, it says that with the close to me, I will be sanctified. Now, where did he speak? And I will be sanctified by my glory. So Moshe Rabbeinu says that tells Aaron that his two sons are greater than him and Aaron, because they sanctified the Beis Hamikdash with their self-sacrifice. Verse 44, I'll sanctify the holy, this tent of meeting. With some Mizbeach and the altar, with Aaron and his son, Aaron, with Banav and his sons. A Kaddish, I will sanctify Lechan Li to serve me. Verse 45, I will dwell in the midst of the children of Israel, and I'll be for them as a God. And it will be known. I am God, your God. It took you out of the land of Egypt. The Sheikhni b'seichem, so I can dwell in your midst. Ani Hashem Elokechem, I am God, your God. As she said, the Sheikhni b'seichem, Amnasishkani b'seichem, which is an intention to dwell in your midst. And that completes the Chumash for today. Continue the Tanya, 29th chapter of Tanya. The Alter Rebbe is talking about the concept of humility. And the Alter Rebbe said that even though a person might say, I've not sinned, I'm about tshuva, and I've not sinned, but we all know that everybody has sinned in the past, so therefore, I have to realize that I still need to work on my sins of the past, because as I travel, as the sin affected many levels, so too ultimately I have to rectify all the levels in the spiritual worlds that have been affected. And the Alter Rebbe says that's the point of David HaMelech said, that my sins are always before me, even though the sins of the past, they're always before me, because I realized that the Eibishter put in front of me, gave me the capability, even maybe 20, 50 years ago, to do a sin, so that it inspire me today, even though I already rectified the sin, but that I'd done the sin many years ago inspires me and pushes me today to go higher. But not only, so this is the concept of humility. I'm humbled by my actions in the past, so it gives me the inspiration to become better today. Now the Alter Rebbe continues. Let's say a person, let's say a person who's innocent from any grievous sins of the youth. So you might think to himself, how can he contain a contrite spirit? Pashut a perfect guy. Yeah, Samaliba, nevertheless, he shall set to his heart. If he's such a holy Jew, he should follow, he should try to accomplish what the Zohar says. Lias mimore de chushbon, to be a master of the accounts. What does that mean of the Zohar, be a master of the chushbon accounts? This means that one should do the spiritual accounting described below, as you'll soon see, as a master. A prior repertoire, to whom each set of figures represents either a profit or a loss that directly affects him, rather than as a servant, a hired accountant, one who can view whatever bottom line adventures which academic detachment. I know. Let's look at the Alter Rebbe. Last is cheshbon nafshay. One should make a calculation, stock of his soul. From all his thoughts and utterances and actions, that have come and gone, from the time he was born until today, present day. We're all them in the realm of holiness. And mitzad hatuma rachman al-san, or for the realm of impurity. God forbid. Kind of kol machshavos v'diburim. Think about all the thoughts and speeches and actions which wasn't for the sake of God. For the will of God, for the service of God. This is the meaning of the Sitra Achra. Not necessarily evil, but simple the other side. The side of the realm that's not holy. Thus, anything that does not contain holiness belongs to the realm of impurity. I'm not talking about sin. We're talking about the realm of the other side. We're talking about impurity. Impurity is not a sin. Sin is a sin. Impurity is thus the concept of tumah. What's impurity? Purity puts a person into the concept of separation. So a person is impure, cannot go into the Beis HaMikdash. So what does it show? That he's cut off from holiness. That's it. Didn't do a sin. He does impure. Because he got involved with things that were impure. Not that were a sin, that were impure. So a person has to mention. So when we talk about Sitra Achra in Chassidus, I'm not talking about sin. Sitra Achra is not a sin. Sitra Achra is that's not holy. Anything that is unholy, there's no vacuum, there's no middle place. Anything that's unholy is impure. In this Kalel and Perek Vav, I mentioned the 6th chapter of Tanya. So if a person will be accounting and he's going to go to the past and realize all the things that he did, thought, and spoke, things that are not a sin, but basically dust impure. But now it is known. Call Aisha the Machash Machshavos Kadeshins. No, whenever a person thinks holy thoughts, at that moment, he becomes a charity for the chambers of holiness. Echolas in Hebrew is chambers. Whence from these thoughts originate from a place of holiness. Or more precisely, whence the vitality originates of holiness. So becoming a chariot means he becomes completely subservient to the echolas, to the chambers, to the same degree that of a vehicle. Having no will of its own, is completely subservient to the driver's will. When he meditates on the love of God, for example, he becomes a vehicle for the supernal chamber of love, and so on. And so the opposite. When a person thinks impure thoughts, again, impure things of thoughts does not mean evil. Impure thoughts means something that's not holy. He becomes an unclean vehicle for the chambers of impurity. that all impure thoughts come from that chamber. And so too in thought, in speech and in action. Thus, even one who cannot call to his mind any past sins can still become humble spirit by contemplating how often he's become a vehicle to impurity of thought in his thoughts, words, and actions, which though not sinful, he didn't know was sin, were still in the realm of the Sitra Achra. They were still in the realm of impurity, since they were not directly in the concept of godliness. And therefore, he has still the capability to become humble. Here, the Alter Rebbe gives you any kind of direction that you have, that you should bring humility to yourself, whether you did sin now, whether you did sin in the past, whether you did no sin, but you were involved in inyanim she'ein l'kedusha. You were involved in things that were not holy, and therefore you automatically became impure, which is not a sin again to become impure, but ultimately impurities separates you from godliness. And that's the truth. So ultimately, if you're an accountant and you make a calculation of things that you daven, things that you thought and spoke and did that had nothing to do with God, but for selfish, physical, purposeful reasons that had nothing to do with godliness, so that's a concept of impurity. And therefore, a person needs to do tshuva on that, needs to work on that. And it shows that it's disconnection. As I said, when somebody becomes impure, he can't come to the Beis Hamikdash. And that he has to go and purify himself to be able to come to the Beis Hamikdash. So that shows that he's disconnected and he has a problem. The Sitra Achra, the Tumah, the impurity, disconnected him from the concept of godliness. And that completes the Tanya for today. Today is Purim Katan. Happy Purim Katan. Today is the 14th day of Adar Rishon, and the Tillim of today is chapter 72 to chapter 76. And you would do the chitas of the day. I wish you a happy Purim Katan. I wish you a happy Purim Shushan Purim Katan, which is tomorrow. I hope that you will learn Tanya tomorrow by yourselves. And in Mir Shem, we'll see you all on Sunday morning, 8 o'clock. We'll continue the Tanya of the day. So happy Purim Katan, happy Shabbos. And it should be like Yehudim, Haisa'ira, V'simcha, V'sasa, V'ikar. It should be only happiness, gladness, and joy for the entire Jewish nation. The coming of Mashiach, B'mheira, B'yameinu Mamash. Have a wonderful and beautiful day. Have a wonderful Shabbos, and we'll see you all in Mir Shem on Sunday. Have a wonderful